I'm David. I'm 67 years old. I've lived long enough to know that the mistakes that stay with you the longest are not the loud ones. They're the quiet ones, the ones that felt right at the time. This happened years ago when I was in my early 40s. That's when I trusted the wrong person.
I met Marcus when we were young, both in our early 20s. We didn't grow up together. We didn't go to the same school. We met later, through work, in the same city, the same circle, the same routine. We were very different, but somehow it worked. Marcus was the kind of man people liked quickly. He talked easily, remembered names, and made others feel comfortable. I was quieter. I listened more than I spoke. Where he took risks, I hesitated. Where he moved fast, I moved carefully. We became close without realizing it. We spent years doing ordinary things together. Coffee after work, long drives with no destination, talking about plans we weren't sure we'd ever follow through on. When one of us was short on cash, the other helped. No paperwork, no counting, just trust. That trust grew slowly. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't built on big promises. It was built on time, on simple, everyday consistency. I always had a plan in my mind. I wanted to start a business of my own. I worked steadily and saved what I could, but it was never quite enough. Somewhere along the way, I accepted that if I really wanted to do this, I would have to sell my parents' property to make it happen. One afternoon, we were sitting in a small coffee bar, the kind with wooden tables and familiar faces behind the counter. I told Marcus about the idea I'd been carrying for years. I explained the demand, the need for reliable logistics, how I had looked into it carefully and believed it could work. I told him that I was thinking about selling my parents' house to fund it. Marcus listened without interrupting. He didn't rush me or question my reasoning. When I finished, he nodded and said he knew people in the field. Drivers, dispatchers, local contacts. People who could help once things were moving. He spoke calmly, like someone thinking things through, not like someone asking for anything. I went home that evening with his words still in my head. Over the next few days, I began preparing the property for sale. It was the house where I had grown up, the house my parents had left me. Letting it go wasn't easy, but I kept reminding myself why I was doing it. I spoke directly with local property dealers, the kind who handled things face to face. I had a small notice placed in the newspaper. I answered phone calls, met with interested buyers, and waited. Every step felt slow, but it felt necessary. Marcus didn't reach out during that time, and I didn't think much of it. He had recently gotten married, and I assumed life was busy for him. Work, family, responsibilities, they all take time. Still, I remembered what he had said about knowing people who could help, and that gave me a quiet sense of reassurance. Each day I reviewed the plan again in my head. I had savings, but not enough on their own. I had a property that could change everything once it sold, and I believed that I was finally close to turning something I had thought about for years into something real. While I was waiting for the property matter to settle, something reached me through an acquaintance. Marcus had hosted a gathering, a small celebration, a business opening, from what I was told. I wasn't invited. At first, I didn't react to it. I told myself there were simple explanations. Maybe it was rushed. Maybe it was limited. Maybe he planned to speak to me later. I didn't feel offended, just mildly surprised. I was still focused on my own situation, on getting the sale completed so I could finally move forward. Not long after that, things began to change on my end. A serious buyer came forward. The discussions moved quickly. The property sold for a fair amount, enough to finally give shape to the plan I had been carrying for so long. When the deal was done, I felt relief more than excitement. A long wait had ended. With the money secured, my thoughts returned immediately to Marcus. Not with suspicion, not with doubt, but with purpose. I remembered what he had said in the coffee bar, about knowing people who could help, about connections that could make things smoother. It felt natural to reach out now. This was the moment where everything was supposed to come together. I went to his house first. His wife opened the door. She was polite, calm, and surprised to see me. Marcus wasn't home. He was at work. When I explained why I was there, she didn't hesitate. She told me where his office was and said he'd probably be there for the rest of the day. I thanked her and left. As I drove toward the address she had given me, something shifted inside me. The area felt familiar. Too familiar. Shock. It was one of the locations I had considered myself. A practical area, well connected, suitable for the kind of operation I had planned. I noticed it, but I didn't let my thoughts run ahead of me. When I arrived, I stopped before going in. The sign on the building made my chest tighten. The name was different, but the nature of the business was unmistakable. Logistics, transport, operations structured exactly the way I had envisioned them. I stepped inside. Everything I saw confirmed what I had already begun to understand. The setup, the workflow, the contacts involved, the scale. It wasn't inspired by my idea, it was my idea. The same structure, the same system, the same practical choices I had explained months earlier, now fully built and running. It felt unreal, standing there. Just heavy, like something had quietly been taken from me while I was busy waiting, planning, trusting. In that moment, the past months rearranged themselves in my mind. The careful listening, the calm nods, the talk of knowing the right people, the distance afterward, the party I hadn't been invited to. None of it felt accidental anymore. I didn't confront him then. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask questions. I already had the answers. What I felt wasn't anger, at least not right away. It was disbelief, and beneath that, something colder. The realization that the plan I had protected for years, the risk I had been preparing to take, had been taken from me by the one person I never thought to guard it from. I left knowing that whatever came next, things would never be the same. I didn't stay there. I didn't walk inside or wait to see Marcus. The moment I understood what I was looking at, I turned around and left. There was nothing I could say that would undo what had already happened, and there was nothing he could say that would make it easier to accept. I knew then that whatever explanation existed would only insult what I had trusted. I went home. For several days I barely spoke. I moved through the house distracted, my mind stuck on the same thoughts, returning again and again to the same moments. I replayed our conversations, the tone of his voice, the way he listened when I explained my plan. None of it felt careless at the time. That was what made it so difficult to process. My wife noticed the change immediately. She didn't question me or push me to talk. She let the silence sit until I was ready. One evening after dinner, I told her everything. I told her about the business idea, about selling the house, and about what I had seen when I went looking for Marcus. I didn't leave anything out. She listened. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she didn't try to minimize it or turn it into something smaller than it was. What she did say stayed with me. She reminded me that ideas can be taken, but ability cannot. That plans can be copied, but understanding cannot. The discipline, the patience, the way I thought things through, that was still mine. No one had touched that. She told me that if I had built one plan once, I could build another. Different shape, same foundation. It didn't fix things overnight. For a while, the disappointment lingered. But slowly, something shifted. Instead of replaying what Marcus had done, I began thinking about what I still had. Experience, knowledge, the willingness to start again, even after being knocked off course. We decided to move forward, not by chasing the same path, but by choosing a new one that still made sense for who I was. We started small, a food delivery business, practical, local, built around reliability and consistency. I understood logistics. I understood systems. This wasn't a leap into the unknown, it was a redirection.
The early months were difficult. There were long days and uncertain nights. But there was also something else, a sense of ownership that felt clean. Every decision was mine. Every mistake was mine. Every improvement came from lessons I had learned the hard way. Over time, the business grew. Slowly at first, then steadily. Word spread. People trusted us because we delivered what we promised. We didn't cut corners. We didn't rush growth. We built something solid. Before I realized it, we had become one of the most reliable operations in town. Looking back now, I can see the truth clearly. What was meant for me didn't disappear. It simply took a different shape. The lesson I carry with me isn't just about business. It's about people. Not everyone who walks beside you wants to see you succeed. Not everyone who listens is listening for the right reasons. Trust is powerful, but it should never be careless. You don't owe everyone access to your plans, your ideas, your future. And sometimes, losing people like that is a blessing, disguised as a setback. What happened to me taught me one simple truth. Ideas can be copied, but the discipline behind them can't. The patience, the experience, the way you think, that's yours, and no one can steal it. So protect what matters, choose your circle carefully, and build your future with intention, not impulse. For more such real-life advices, subscribe to Lessons from Lives.